All right, so we are in for a treat today. I've got Christal Johnson, and you are out of the DC area. I just think it's a big area in DC there.
It is. You might as well just be one huge area. So
Yeah. So this is going to be awesome. We've been working together for I think it's about 3 years or so, and I'm excited for you to hear the journey, the story, the struggle, the wins of Christal and her husband Alan Johnson. So Christal, why don't you start off just like a minute or two, like just personally what you have going on with the family and how you guys got into real estate. Just give us an overview.
yeah, so I'll kind of chop this down into some bite-sized pieces really quickly. So my name is Christal Johnson, as Lars mentioned, and I actually joined my husband, Alan Johnson, with his real estate business back in 2015 timeframe. And I had just left the federal government. I was transitioning from being a contractor, and we spoke about a few times before me joining the business, so I decided to join. Alan had already been in real estate for several years. I mean, to this point, I think it's now been 18 years he's been in real estate. So he was most certainly a well-oiled machine. He understood the business, very top-notch in terms of his individual performance running the real estate business. When I joined, one thing that I noticed was just the fact that we needed a lot more structure, a little more systems. Alan was a great entrepreneur. He could, do anything for a sustainable period of time, but we knew that it wasn't necessarily set up and structured for the long haul. So we knew that we were going to have to get into coaching right away. When I first joined, I'll be honest with you, I was very skeptical about any coaching. I was with someone for a short period of time when I first got with the business. Alan really identified pretty quickly that he wasn't going to be the best coach for me to get into the business. So we paired with someone else. And at first, I just felt that it was a lot of lip service. Honestly, there was a coach who was just kind of giving me things in terms of ideology. Like, this is how the real estate world should work in a perfect world. And just giving me a bunch of just, here's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plan, versus actually giving us actionable things that we could take forward to really move the business forward. So my first taste of coaching in the real estate business was kind of sour, just because I didn't feel as though I was given strategic steps that I could actually take and implement to the business to really move us forward. And then, just to kind of backtrack a little bit, when I first got into the team and I joined the business with my husband, we also knew we needed to do an overhaul of the people that we had on the team with us. And when we were doing that, just to say that it wasn't pretty, it was difficult, it was a big challenge. So here we are, really starting from scratch. And then secondarily, having me, someone who wasn't necessarily into the day-to-day operations of a real estate business, joining the team and needing to learn. So, we had our work cut out for us for sure.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get into that. I think that's one of the coolest thing about your story, your willingness to kind of let go of what you had for something better on the other side. Talk about a little, what did you want to achieve when we first started working together? And this was back in 2015.
Yeah, it was about towards the end of 2015.
Yeah, and that year, how much volume did the business do in 2015?
In 2015, we had just blown up the team, and we did about, if I had to go back and think about it, we did just under 32 million in volume that year. And then we first got into business with you, so we were still going full steam ahead, and we were moving pretty swiftly.
Yeah, and we'll get into it, but Christal again mentioned at the end of 2015, you blew the whole thing up.
Yeah, we did.
And you did keep Alan, which was good.
We kept Alan.
And one assistant, or?
Yeah, we kept one assistant, our transaction coordinator, she stayed.
Yep. So, and then that next year, 2016, you went from 32. Did you stay flat?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me go back a little bit. So in 2016 is when we did the 32 million. In 2015, that's when we blew the team up, and we were just beginning to start getting to business with you guys. And Alan was working basically by himself, closing deals. And so we did about 80 deals that year for just over about 25 million.
Got it. Okay, good. And you blew the team up that year. You did 25 million. It was towards the end of that year, right?
Yeah.
So you went into 2016, you went from 25 to 32 million. when you were in transition with getting the wrong people off and bringing the right people in. What did you want to achieve when we first started working together? I think it kind of leads into this, but.
Yeah, absolutely. When we first started working with you, honestly, we just wanted to have our life back. When we first got started, as I mentioned about those transitions and going with the team and making all those adjustments, we were probably working in the business 24 hours out of 24 hours in the day. It was absolutely madness, and it was not necessarily chaos, but it was just no quality of life that we really wanted to have. So we knew that we needed to get into a relationship with a coaching team and a coaching business like B School that would help us kind of gain our life back and get a lot more structure to our environment. So we were going hardcore with hiring and recruiting the right people. And we were able to pick up some great folks, and the coaching program was able to give us a lot more structure. We had been shooting from our hip. Again, raw talent is a powerful thing, but raw talent only takes you but so far. And we just realized that without us having the right tools, systems, structure, from hiring, from accountability, from the stance of just understanding how to really grow a business and not just have a job, that it was going to be critical for us. And we knew that we found all those things when we got on a call with Lars and we understood what B School was all about.
And let me ask you, we talk a lot about time, money, and stress. Like, it's this equation, whether you're in real estate or you're in corporate job, or you're giving a good part of your waking hours to a thing, time to generate some level of financial, some money, and then you don't want it to stress you out, especially when you're a husband wife business partnership, right? I mean, it's hard enough to do it at all, let alone do it with the person that you need to sleep next to and you want to like at the end of the day. And in 2016, what age are your children now?
Our girls are 8 and 5. So, when we're looking back to that time period, I mean, we had little girls. I mean, we had a toddler in the house. I had one just starting, kindergarten. It was most certainly a stressful time in our lives, just because we had a lot of transition going on. And then just for me, coming from a background where I was in the same industry with the same company for 11 years and just diving into something completely different. Now, while I had a solid understanding of real estate in general, Alan and I were investors, so we were business partners in that aspect as well. I didn't have a clue about residential real estate and actually real estate sales from the standpoint of helping clients.
And so as you settled into working in the team, 2016, what were the biggest problems that you saw with the business? Because 25 million, that's nothing to be ashamed of, right? But you just realize that to take it to another level, you need to do it totally differently. But what were the problems you were facing?
The number one problem that we had was that there was a lack of accountability. At that point, people were kind of just coming in when they felt like it. Even from us, the leadership team, we weren't necessarily dialed in to a schedule and making sure that we were holding ourselves accountable to performing at the highest level that we could. So the number one thing I would say was accountability, just making sure that we understood exactly what to accomplish and hold ourselves and our feet to the fire with every single day. The second thing I would say was just making sure that we identified what our culture was going to be. I remember pretty vividly going to the first intensive with real estate business school, and we really talked about culture. And on the plane ride back, Alan and I sit down and we literally wrote out, our core values. We wrote out the mission of the AJ team, and we got really clear just about what it is that we wanted our business to represent. And once we did that, I would just tell you a lot of things just changed on our team. I mean, we were able to really identify talent that were in line with our values. We were very clear about what we wanted to focus on a day-to-day basis. Just those types of aspects were things that just really help us to move forward. So, the first thing I would say is accountability is we really need it. The second thing is just clarity on what it was that we were doing with this business and how we wanted to portray ourselves to the public.
And so let me dig in a little bit in terms of like what was on the line and what did it mean to get things going in the right direction? So you're coming off that 25 million a year. You left this stable corporate job. Alan's not doing bad. He's just surrounded himself with people that didn't have structure or accountability. But what did it mean for your your family and for your business to get this thing on track?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question, Lars. And this, it's one of those questions where, it definitely brings back memories and gets things a little bit more emotional. What really mattered to me was that I think we were at a place where Alan was burning at both ends of the candle, right? Both ends were lit, was melting down all the way to the middle. He wasn't really sure about whether or not he wanted to utilize, his real estate sales business as a mechanism for our future financial success for the long haul. He was looking at it from an angle of, well, I'll do real estate, kind of on a, 80% basis, and then I'll spend the rest of my time doing, real estate investing. I think this is where we can put most of our energy. And it was, it was a little bit of a smack in the face for me, right? Because I felt as though I was leaving a career to join this business, and it was going to be something that we were really going to build together. And I think that once we got clear and we really, connected with a coaching program that understood that this wasn't just about us making a lot of money, it was about our family, about how we could really build and grow, and how we needed to connect just as individuals and then as a team, as a family. It just made us understand that we could really utilize, real estate as not just a beneficial tool to help grow us, but to grow people around us. One of the things that Alan and I are very proud of and that we really like to do is develop other people. So we realized that, the business that we were going to grow wasn't just about us. It was about the opportunity we were going to create for other families, for other agents who come into our sphere, for the families that we're helping and connecting them with other folks in the community. So, once we got so clear about that, that really put us on the right track, just to make sure that number one, that we were on the same page, that we were after the same things. And then secondarily, just to make sure that we were able to fulfill, our desire and our passion of really helping and developing others.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what, I want to just say it, but what's one thing that you weren't able to do? You really weren't able to show up authentically in the team that Alan had built, and the way the team is structured today. I mean, you guys are able to show up as yourselves, with recommitted, knowing that, speed of the leader, speed of the pack. But talk about that shift. Like, what was it like when you stepped into this company and maybe a little bit toxic environment versus what you guys have now?
Yeah, what I'll say is that, I can't say anything bad about any of the people who were here before. We just brought in individuals who weren't necessarily a reflection of who we were and who we wanted to represent. So we knew right from the start, when I joined the team, and Alan knew before I got here that was going to be the difficult part of just kind of breaking, ties with those individuals and rebuilding to our values that we wanted. And one of the things that, we do now as a team that we could have never done before, it's just really getting clear about our spirituality and our faith. To this day, every single Monday through Friday, our entire team, we do devotion because we know that our faith in God is very important to us. We were able to connect with people who also are passionate about that, and those who aren't passionate about it, they're okay with it. So it's been just fine. But, the thing that it's done for us as a team is, number one, it's given us a deeper level of connectivity, knowing that our purpose and our why and why we're in this business every single day is not driven by money. It's driven by our ability to really help people, to bless others, and to really live out, our faith and our spirituality in a way that helps support others and grow others. We pray for our clients, and I don't know what their religious background is. And we just ask them, do you mind if I pray for you if they're going through a difficult time? And guess what? No one has ever told us no. And that is so fulfilling in a business because we get to create the environment that we want and the environment that we desire. And I don't think that we would have felt we had the freedom to do that if we didn't get clear about it. Through even working with you, Lars. Like, Lars has always been extremely, upfront about his faith and his spirituality. And I think that's also given us the confidence to kind of take that into our business and knowing that's such a huge part of us.
Yeah. And whatever I find a lot of business owners, a lot of team leaders, they don't really live out their true selves, whatever that is. They don't live it out of their business because they're afraid of their team members. Even if it's like, man, I was a world-class athlete in college and I'm not going to apply that structure and accountability to my business. It's like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
You have this like unique thing you could bring into the business world, and somehow we get sheepish about those things, whether it's faith or whether it's hard work or, so that's really cool. Let's dig into the nitty gritty, the tactics, the tools, the systems. What would you say that the three most impactful tools, systems, or strategies that you've worked on with Real Estate B School?
I would say number one was when we were hitting the reset button and we were blowing up our team. One of the things that I know I personally needed clarity on when I joined the business was, what does a team structure really look like? And what do I need to be able to have? And who do I need to be in order to really, grow a group of people to a level of just performance and individual growth that's necessary? And, one of the things that I think I took away first and foremost from Real Estate B School was helping me understand what that structure should look like and how to really set up that culture. When we blew the team up, we weren't really sure what to do. When we started looking at the finances, our splits were all over the place. We weren't holding our money accountable. We had tickets to baseball games and basketball games, and yet we were like, wait a minute, what's our money look like at the end of the day? So with that being said, I think that Lars and all the coaches at B School kind of gave us a smack in the face. It's like, look, you got to really, number one, be understanding of how you want to run a business and making sure you have a great bottom line. And then secondarily, you got to hold your money accountable. So, just implementing, the different, scorecards and making sure that we were very clear on our setting a budget and understanding how to follow that and holding our money accountable through all the technology and tools was extremely beneficial for us. That really got us set up on the right track. While I was saying that we were doing 25 million right before we joined B School or right in that first year afterwards, our bottom line didn't look that great. Getting clear on those items really changed what our bottom line looked like and what our take home was at the end of the year.
And let me, I want to demystify when you say culture. I want to demystify it a little bit because it's really not complicated. But when you say it in the context of we had to leave this culture and we had to build a new culture, people are like, okay, and it's quite simple. You talked about core values. It's right people, right seats. Core values it's just are you who we need on our team? Hustle, work hard, embrace accountability and discipline. Those are two of our core values that if you don't have those, you're literally it will be so obvious you don't fit on our team. And you have a set of core values that do the same. And then right seat, we invite people onto our team that have never done the thing we need them to do. We just hope they're going to do it. And we hold them to no structure whatsoever. And it's you're not serving them to a next level in their life. So I just want to demystify that a little bit. What's your takeaway on that? You really didn't have it at all in the old company. And then how does culture show up every day in your business?
Yeah, I think that, you're absolutely right, Lars. When people used to say that word, I go to conferences and I hear it posted throughout culture. And even from the corporate standpoint, we had this, very dry and, I don't know, I can't even explain it. It doesn't even make any sense. It was extremely rigid type of culture and core values that no one really ever lived up to. But when we got into B School and really started, demystifying it and really breaking it down for what it really truly was, we realized that, culture is just who you are and who you want to attract and how you guys all march that same, beat. And for us, it was really about, we're very giving people. So our number one core value is just being a blessing. And we feel like that can fall into any aspect of your life, whether that be business, whether that be personal, whether it be with your family, whether it be with the person that you meet on the street. It's just at the end of the day, if we go into this and we go into our objectives every day with the intention of being a blessing to those people that we're serving, we've already won. That's number one for us. The second thing for us, if you don't show up, you're not going to fit for us. If you don't want to be a master of your craft, at the end of the day, if you say you want to serve people to the highest level and that's what we want to do, then you need to be diving deep into your activities and being an expert at the job that you do by studying the market, understanding the market, speaking to people about the market on a consistent basis. And that is very easy for us. It's very clear if you're not showing up for that, because with our team meetings that we have every week, everyone is expected to come in there and contribute to a high level. And the last one, I would say that, we have 5, but the last one I think is probably the most important out of those other 2 was just, being someone who really is committed to being a proactive solution. We found that in the past, the members on our team, were most certainly individuals who wanted to receive a lot, but didn't want to give. And we knew that that is not what we wanted going forward. We wanted people who were thinkers, were ready and prepared to give, and who were proactive at their approach of making sure that we could all be the best version of ourselves. So again, those are just three things for us in our business. It shows up like a sore thumb if you're not following through on those objectives. And we realize that, as we focus on getting people who have the capacity and the willingness to actually want to do those things, that we could be very successful.
That's awesome. And yeah, so be a blessing, be a master of your craft, be the solution, be a giver. Like you can get a sense of, and these are things you can interview to.
Oh, yeah.
Like you say, Christal, tell me, so give me like 10 examples of how you're a blessing every day. And it doesn't have to be like like you have to, like, if you're not a believer, the baptism tank is right there.
Exactly.
It's like a blessing is like everyone understands it. So it is a total demystifying. I want to dig into the other thing you mentioned was tracking and knowing your numbers and agent splits and all that. We call that kind of the economic model. Let's dig into that a little bit. What was it like when you stepped into this business in terms of tracking and financials and scorecards? What was it like?
Non-existent, to be completely honest with you. It was like a spreadsheet that had some numbers on it that weren't consistent. I couldn't really figure out exactly where we pulling this data from. So when I got in, I tried to clean that up as best as possible so we can really have true numbers exactly to reflect our performance. And then when we came into B school, the economic model was so just easy to grasp. It gave you a very clear indication of how you could run the business and run it in such a way that you would be able to see exactly where you were going to fall and how you're going to perform on a daily basis, not even at the end of the month. Like before, we're just waiting to the end of the month and seeing how much did we earn and how much did we spend and what does that really look like. And now, with the economic model that we've employed for B school, we can see that every day. I have a running tally of what's happening and what's going on in the business, and we can quickly adjust and make changes. The biggest challenge for us, I won't call it, it wasn't difficult, it was a challenge, was when we were introduced to the economic model and we started looking at how we were compensating agents. And we realized that we didn't really have a breakdown as related to, the sources of business. And when we got very clear on our sources of business, we realized that we were probably spending a lot more and giving up a lot of more commissions than we needed to and that what we could afford to, honestly. At the end of the day, we were finding ourselves not necessarily running a business, but we were kind of running I'll just call it like a soup kitchen, right? We're just handing out leads and good luck and I hope they all convert for you and you make money and give me back $10 later. It wasn't that bad, but it felt that way. So once we got the economic model into play, we realized that we were able to really tighten up those numbers, make those financials work for everyone. So, just so everyone's clear, it doesn't mean that when we're looking at commission splits and the financials and things of that nature that, we're looking at the opportunity for us to kind of walk away as, living high on the hog, as they say in the South, right? We looked at it from the angle of how can we make sure that everyone is able to live a lifestyle that they never imagined, and that they're all being, well compensated while also, of course, supporting the business that supports them.
If I could take anything that's ever been said about the like I'm almost getting tears in my eyes and I literally have goosebumps. I'm not even joking. I'm getting emotional because what you said right there is most team leaders will never grasp the concept that having an economic model, knowing your numbers, knowing that I can't afford, and it comes back to value-based commission splits. Like agent, where is your value in this transaction? I bought the Zillow lead. It's really freaking expensive in the DC area to be able to afford this lead. I cannot pay you 50% on it. I can't even pay you 40% on it. I can pay, whatever the numbers are. And we run our business the same exact way. Our team, it's 100% transparency on our financials with our team. We don't run this model to take advantage of people. We run it so that we're going to be in business 3 to 5 years from now. So there's so much goodness in there. It's like the economic model is basically, what model are you following? Do you even have a model for what you can afford to pay your agents, what you can afford for marketing, for people, for overhead. You talked about value-based commission splits and really breaking down for an agent to understand, when it's your sphere and I had nothing to do with it, that's how you get paid. When, we set the appointment for you and it's Alan's best friend and Alan doesn't do production anymore, it's obviously paid and they'll understand it because they're like, yeah, I'm cool getting $2,000 for 10 hours work. Like, I don't know where else I can get $200. But if you don't have that conversation with them ahead of time, they'll think it's unfair and you're taking advantage of them. And then you talked about lead sourcing. Lead sourcing and lead tracking and tracking your return on investment on lead sources. And it's not for everyone what I'm about to say, but it's what has caused our team to 100% turn off any paid home search leads. Because that business of you Zillow generate the lead and then you sell it to me, it's a loser's, in the long term, you're going to lose that game. We've helped people in boardroom get rid of $21,000 a month of Zillow spend because the team leader was losing hundreds of dollars on each closing. And the agents were like, this is great. I love these leads, so that's so good. And yeah, it's so good. So talk about the results you've achieved. So we know 25 million when you stepped into this bee's nest, whatever you said it into. Then you did a year where it was Alan really just digging in, figuring out core values. That 2016 you did 32 million. What did 17 and 18 look like, and what did the time, money, stress look like for you and Alan?
Yeah. So let's see. I think in 17 we did 52 million. 18 we took a little bit of a step back and we did about 47 million. But let's kind of talk about what's more important with that. So the year we did 52 million, great year. Of course, we can all cheer and say rah rah rah. But we also know that was still a year where we were growing, expanding, and still trying to get our feet underneath us, so to speak. It was a great year. I can't take anything away from that success. We worked really hard. We got some great new just blood on the team that were really ready to fall into the core values, who were very much a master at their craft, proactive solutions, really hungry, driven, and really went after it. And so we had a great year. Still we're trying to strike a good balance with, work and family life. Anytime you're growing a business, it's never going to be perfect. It's one of those things where you're going to have to put some time in, but the time was a little bit different. Instead of Alan, spending, 80 hours a week, doing sales, he was spending 80 hours a week doing, half as many sales, but coaching and building business, right? So it was just a changing how his time was being spent so he could really continue to focus on growing the business and myself as well. And then as we looked into 2018, we had a couple of challenges in terms of just staffing. We had a couple of team members who were relocating out of the area, so that wasn't fun at all because they were great and great fits to our team, and we definitely still miss them. And then we had to, get back on the recruiting train. And so one of the things I'll tell you is that, Lars has told us every year since we've been in business with him is that you can never stop recruiting. We weren't the best listeners, to be honest with you. And this is where, I would tell you that this is why coaching is always necessary. So even if you feel as though you are meeting your mark and you're doing great and you're having these great strides and you had your best year ever, it can all start trickling back if you didn't really follow the plan. And I think that's what we discovered in 2018 was the fact that since we hadn't been recruiting because we were so focused on growing productivity, that we really missed it. We missed the bus when it came to the fact that we had people leave and we didn't have anyone on the bench to replace them. So we spent a lot of time in the back end of 2018, and that you looked at our financial picture, you would most certainly see the fact that we ramped all the way up through the summer, and then we started coming right on down at the end of the year. And a lot of that was driven by the fact that we had to shift focus and have our eyes glued on recruiting. So with that being said, one of the things that I'll never do again is stop recruiting. We'll always make sure we keep our hiring process on so that we can continue to grow and build a team and not have to go through what we did in this past year of trying to get the right talent in place again. Yeah,
and I'll say a few comments on there because you jumped on yourself as explaining why you didn't grow year after year after year after year. And growth is measured in so many different ways. And And I know you and Alan personally, and I know that you guys are playing a long, not only the eternal, like that part of your beliefs, but you're playing a long game in business. And so when you're playing a long game in business, the growth for growth's sake and the frustration, and maybe you were frustrated, but you're not so focused. Like, this year doesn't have to be the year we go from 52 to 75. And so maybe if that feels like that for you, I just give you permission to, it's okay to not grow, as long as you're like, I'm leaving this year with the most solid 80% automated recruiting system that I could ever have. Right. And we made that mistake last year. This is my 11th year in business. We let the recruiting simmer, go from it's really producing to like a little bit below a simmer. And now we're having to like resurrect it because we need to hire people again. So it's just human nature. But I'll say that I think the third thing, you mentioned culture, you mentioned economic model. I think your third thing is probably, that's one thing for you guys, is just recruiting and surrounding yourself with talent. And the fact that that's a whole talk about recruiting and how, you've heard me talk about how I've messed it up. But what can you share about recruiting with everybody that you've done really well?
Yeah, our recruiting journey has been quite the bumpy road, to be honest with you. When we first started, it was most certainly, this person introduces a friend of a friend to us and say, oh, we think they'd be great at sales. And we talk to them and have a conversation with them about sales, didn't think about their track record, didn't really think about what they really had. We just wanted to know if we liked them. They seemed nice and personable, and they'd be a great fit to the team. And that's how we recruited. Fast forward to today, and our recruiting system is completely different. At the end of the day, number one, everyone has to be a culture fit, right? There's no way around not being a culture fit. Like, you have to be a culture fit before you can even have the conversation about whether or not you can join the team, right? So that's the beginning part of the recruiting process. And then the secondary part is like, do you have a track record that has proven your performance? We're still getting there, to be honest with you. It's such a journey. It's hard sometimes recruiting individuals who come with, all the skills and all the boxes checked off. And so we have some that we're going to have to develop, and we're taking that risk. But our target is to really go after individuals who have a proven track record, who show that they have demonstrated success in sales in the past. And we're recruiting for administrative, again, who demonstrated success on being able to function in a high level, high powered, high productivity type of environment. We have our system set up so that we're constantly recruiting. So we use a system that is posting our ads for us on a daily basis and refreshing those ads on a regular basis. Twice a week, I'm looking at all applicants and all candidates that are coming in, reviewing resumes, reviewing their assessments, choosing who we want to move forward. Once a month, we're having a meet and greet. During that meet and greet, and these are all processes that we took from B School. So, rip off and duplicate, I will most certainly attest to that.
R&D for sure. Rip off and duplicate.
Rip off and duplicate. I can attest to the fact that I did not come with any of these ideas. They are not original. And then, the meet and greet gives us an opportunity, again, to see whether or not that culture fit is there, and we decide to move them on. And from there, it's like a 9-step process. And, it's 9 steps that take quite a bit of time. But we know that on the other end of that, the folks who are committed, who are passionate, who are actually the right fit for the job, they're going to stick through it, and we've been able to have some good success.
Yeah, and that right there, getting set up on the right culture, the right financial model, and then having the right way to harness talent. That's the entire business right there. And then there's all the challenges with onboarding them, which we won't get into, which is perennially, we all have those challenges. Let's shift gears a little bit. Talk to me about, objections when we first started having conversations about coaching. What were the objections or the thoughts in your mind? Like, I almost didn't join, or I really didn't believe what Lars was saying. What were you thinking in terms of objections at the time?
To be completely honest with you, I was very open at the time because I knew where we were and I knew that we couldn't stay there. I was very clear on the fact that at the end of the day, we needed to make changes. So I did come into the coaching program eyes wide open, especially once I had the one-on-one coaching call with you and understood that you were going to give us extremely actionable steps to take to move the business forward versus the old coaching that we had. But if I had to say any objection, I think the first one was more of heartburn when we really started talking about financials and really having to reveal our financials and making sure that we were comfortable doing that. I think a lot of time in many small businesses is that we like to hide behind the screen, so to speak. You know, we don't like to open ourselves up for any type of negative feedback or draw any negative attention that we perceive to be negative to ourselves. So the biggest part, I think, was the challenge was just getting clear about the fact that we had to be an open book and that we had to be able to show what we were doing well and really, really show the things that we weren't doing well and where we were vulnerable and we needed help. I think that was one of the biggest challenges. If any objection, if I had to speak to it from Alan's point of view, I would say that when we talked about commissions and changing commissions, Alan thought that was the craziest thing ever, that there was no way that we were going to be able to retain or keep talent because he couldn't wrap his mind around it. And but once we really went through it, I mean, today he probably wouldn't even admit that that's how he felt about it. Like, no, of course, I always thought that made sense.
That's awesome. What's been your favorite part of Real Estate B School?
Oh man, I would say my favorite part is just the community. You know, there are so many just talented people in this group. I mean, just highly intelligent, very talented, willing to share, very open and honest. You know, the community is probably the best aspect of it. You know, it's very hard in this business to get people who are honest and who are willing to be vulnerable. You know, we go to all these huge events all the time and everyone wants to talk about, you know, their numbers and the productivity that they did, but they never want you to peer behind that curtain, like I said. They don't want to show you the bottom line because they know that they'd be found out, right? Or at least what they perceive. They'd be found out that they're a fraud or something like that. And the truth is that they would probably all benefit from being a part of a community like this because they would grow and they would understand how to run a business more effectively. And they would understand how they could keep more of their earnings versus spending it on these, you know, erroneous lead sources that are just costing so much money. So if anything, I think it's the community, and I think it's having the ability to really communicate with people on a very vulnerable level. And we know that we're all in it to be successful, and there's no shame. There's no shame at all. We can just kind of all move forward together and kind of help us grow our businesses.
Yeah, and in the last like 3 minutes, you've said vulnerable 4 times. And I think it's like 100% of like the challenge. I think just society in general, but real estate specifically, because it's where we play. We just see guys and girls they put on this like suit of armor and like, you know, yeah, we did, you know, whatever, however many transactions, but nobody knows if they made money, if they're suffering on the inside, if their stress level, if they're not present with their spouse. I mean, I interviewed 2 of the top guys in our industry, and they both have lost marriages. You know, and it's like, what kind of success is that, you know, really? And there's no shame, right? We all get in positions where, and hopefully, and they've learned from it. But it's like, I don't want that to be the thing that catapults you into a you know, now you're going to be focusing on yourself. And so let me ask you, who would you recommend Real Estate B School to and why?
Man, that's a great question. When I think back on it, and even from where we are today, I would recommend it for anyone who is running even an individual business, who's looking towards going towards a team, or who has a small team who's doing, you know, anywhere from 50 to 100 transactions a year, and they really want to catapult that to another level. I also would recommend it to individuals who want balance in their coaching program. And what I mean by that is, you know, kind of taking back on what Lars just mentioned, was the fact that, you know, this program is not just about, you know, running a successful real estate business. While that is probably, you know, a good chunk of it, and that's the part that's probably important to people who are out there looking, the part that I think is more important is that, you know, there's such a strong emphasis on your personal well-being, on your family's well-being, on your ability to just be a well-rounded individual who happens to be a successful business owner. You know, if you're someone who is just kind of struggling to get a grasp on things, who just need clarity in their business, who need to figure out how do I just bite down chunks, you know, chunk down these sizes of how I need to move this business forward on a day-to-day basis. this is a program for you. It's going to be able to help you gain that clarity that you want. It's going to be able to help you put your life into counterbalance, because I don't believe in balance, but into counterbalance where, you're being able to fulfill, your obligations to your family, to your spouse, to your loved ones, and well as be successful at running your business. So if you're looking for someone or a program that's going to help you to achieve all of those things, then this is certainly the place for you.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And the only thing I'll add is, yeah, it is just the real part of business. Like, let's just look at the stuff that it's not perfect. Let's just put it on the table. It's going to hurt for just a little bit, and let's just put it out there and talk about it. But and I like what you said about the community. I think it's something that is completely rare. I've been in other coaching programs in and out of the real estate industry. I'm in a similar to, it's actually called Boardroom. It's where I got the name for the level that you're in. I'm in that with another coaching company, and we've just broken into a little bit of authenticity and vulnerability in that group with an exercise. But it took, a good 2 or 3 years to get there. So if you've achieved traditional success and the equation doesn't make sense, right? You're spending too much time in the business. There's too much stress. Maybe the money's good, but you're sacrificing other areas of your life. It's time to just go to realestatebschool.com. And the first step, the only step, is a business growth strategy session. It's obvious there on the website what that step looks like. And what Christal shared today is, there was a lot of short-term pain around doing what Kristen and Alan had to do. They did it because they only get one shot at life, right? We're only here physically on earth for a period of time. Their children are still young, where they could pivot and build this business in a way where they could serve their family. They could serve each other differently. They could serve their community. So if this story hits you in the same way that it hit me, it almost brought me to tears. When Christal's talking about freaking numbers, I'm like, oh, it's so great. So go to realestatebschool.com. Christal, thank you for your time. I know you're a busy woman, and we appreciate you. And I just respect you and Alan more than I possibly could tell you. So I just appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Anytime, Lars. Appreciate you.
All right.